How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Watch Your Drive. I'm your host, RodZ. We got a special guest today, Mr. Evan.
Let's give him a round of applause.
I can't get that right.
It's good to be here, man. Definitely looking forward to another discussion and share with the community.
Let's get into it. We're gonna get to know you so everybody can know your story of how you got into the automotive industry and everything you do. So,
Absolutely.
What got you into cars?
Well, growing up, I was definitely of that generation where we were kind of getting into a lot of those like early, like kind of your PS2 games, your Need for Speed, your Gran Turismo, your Midnight Club, all that kind of stuff. And I always give credit to my buddy Sam, who was sort of the pioneer that sort of opened up that interest in cars, you know, growing up in that world. So I would say that was kind of where it started. Then just naturally, like as you get older, you get your license, you know, you want to get behind the wheel, you just kind of start to gravitate towards the tuners, all that kind of stuff. Start to learn about more of the mechanical side, get into some performance, start learning about your modifications, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, from childhood to adolescence and so on and so forth, definitely just kind of work through the natural progression of that.
That's pretty cool, man. That's
Yeah,
cool
man.
that, you know, like I said before, probably on other podcasts, you know, like a lot of people always relate to like Fast and the Furious, which I'm sure like that didn't help. Being that you were playing already car video games growing up and all that stuff, and having a friend that was into cars at a young age was probably like a big bonus for you.
Oh yeah.
Because when I was growing up, I mean, my cousins were into cars, but there's so many like this little, you know, kid that was like, man, go away, let me do my car stuff alone, you know. But that's pretty neat that somebody like guided you into that.
Oh,
into
absolutely.
that aspect of it.
Absolutely, like just kind of starting to tinker, start to find interest in like how you can work out different kind of upgrades and individualize the cars, you know, based on your personal taste, whether it be, you know, your wheels or different cosmetic things, just kind of rooted in like everything that you would have done as a kid in those types of games, you know.
Yeah. Do you remember the first car that you guys like started messing with?
So for me, I actually, I would say where I really started to get kind of more mechanical was on, I used to have an old like Jeep Cherokee, and that was an interesting vehicle. We had, I mean, everything from your like body modifications, you know, your fender flares, your suspension, started to learn about like driveline stuff, like transfer cases, as far as, you know, wheel and tire fitment. I had a Jeep Cherokee, my friend had a Wrangler, and yeah, we kind of got into this like sort of like interesting sort of like outdoorsy, semi like off-road interest, and we were learning about like a lot of things as far as like body modification, like fender flares, like driveline stuff, like transfer cases, like wheel and tire fitment, understanding between, you know, short arms, long arms, learning about axles, differentials, gear ratios, and like all those kind of things. So I would say that was sort of the earliest point, just kind of learning more the mechanical side. And after I did that kind of, you know, sort of like off-road-ish sort of stuff, that was when I guess got more into like wanting to go fast, right? Like more like power stuff. And so then that was when I got into like more Nissan Infiniti. Like I used to have Infiniti Q50. My wife used to have a G37,
nice.
like, you know, VQ37 stuff. That was sort of where I built interest in that. Just did the whole natural progression, like all your intake, exhaust,
full bolt on.
Didn't go anything crazy, but that was sort of my journey into getting into more kind of performance, kind of modifications and whatnot for more so cars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's a pretty cool progression, because not anyone that I've talked to so far went like from off-road Jeep stuff starting and then they go into the cars like a whole 180 and then relearning everything again, because obviously you could lift the car, you know, do like an off-road build on a car.
I guess you could.
But it's a whole different thing to set up a car to go fast than it is to set up a car like a Jeep and a truck or something like that. So did that push you to work into like to work with cars, and have you worked at like, you know, like shops and stuff like that?
Yeah, so for me, like getting into that performance side of things, I found that interest. I kind of wanted to work that into a career. Started off making like my YouTube videos, kind of sharing some experiences with different platforms, different cars, going on about modifications, kind of the upgrade pathways. And then from there, kind of started to approach that like that automotive field as far as an actual job. I did work as a service advisor in a number of different like performance shops for several years. Definitely learned a lot, gained a lot of experience, met a lot of great people. But yeah, it's a tough industry, man. You know, a lot of rough hours, a lot of things that can go wrong for sure. So ultimately, I found that cars were kind of more so my hobby, and I didn't really need to feel like I had to make it my career.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of moved away from that. But yeah, great experience overall. Just learning about just the different things. You know, there's the customer side of it from that experience. And there's a totally different experience on the back end, just learning about all the moving parts and everything that goes into running a shop. So
yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot. And you mentioned that you also like doing YouTube. So you have your own YouTube channel?
I do.
And like, what got you into making videos also?
So when I first had the idea, I was actually thinking back on kind of the early days. A buddy of mine that, like I said, introduced me to all this kind of, you know, your Need for Speed and your midnight clubs, all that stuff when we were real young. And we actually used to go to this Chinese restaurant on definitely a rougher side of town, but it was called the Panda's Den. And, you know, obviously we're like young kids growing up, learning about cars and this and that. That always kind of became like our sort of go-to spot. And yeah, that was where I sort of found that turning point, like wanting to take things a little bit further with my interests and hobbies. And when I first started to, I guess, come up with the idea for a channel, I was like, oh, dude, like, you know, remember back we used to always go to the Panda's Den, we talk about, you know, G35 or G37, whatever, and whatever mods and whatnot. It's like, we always just hang out at the Panda's Den. That was just our spot. So when I figured out a name for my channel, that's why I got the name Savage Panda Projects.
I always wonder.
It's actually a page out of the book from that old restaurant we used to go to.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah. And ironically, another really good friend of mine who I worked with a very long time ago, he actually was really into like a lot of like road course kind of stuff. Like he used to do a lot of like modified like Volkswagen, and he's a really funny dude, man. His nickname is like the Panda. So he's like a really stocky like Korean guy. So you know, just from that restaurant and like, you know, my buddy Jason the Panda, that's I guess always been kind of somewhat of a fictional character within my world of cars. So yeah, that was kind of where that name came from.
That's pretty cool that you were able to put both of those together to come up with the name.
Yeah, just kind of ran with that. I just, you know, something that I always found sort of stuck with me.
So have your friend and family like always supported you in your car like journey and, you know, making YouTube videos and stuff like that? Because I know now, you know, everybody sees that you could make good money being a YouTuber and being an influencer. Yeah. But back then, when you probably first got started, people would look at you like, oh, this kid just got a camera in his face, you know, like.
Oh, man.
Like, how has that been for you?
It's crazy, like when you're a person starting off, like whether it be your closest friends or your family, like you'll always have a million people telling you that you can't do it or you won't do it or there's no point in it. But until you have some type of, I guess, measurable result or some type of success, it's hard to get people, even if it is your close friends or family, to kind of open their eyes and see like, hey, there's a purpose behind this. Right. And just start to show the fruits of your labor. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, I would say, yeah, pretty decent support overall. And obviously seeing that because of my establishment in making content, that did directly open up career opportunities for me, obviously, you know, working and becoming an advisor and all that kind of stuff like in shop. So I always say, even if my videos did or didn't get watched, I still got 3 jobs out of it.
Well, yeah, you learn. And, you know, I always say, because my channel's not that big right now, hopefully it blows up at some point. But like, think about if you put one video out, right? You get 100 views for that for one video. Let's say you put out another video 2 days later, that's 200 views. You know, like if you do every other day of some sort, like think about that's, you know, like 200-300 people that tune into your channel to watch it. That's still unbelievable. That's a crazy amount of people that's watching your stuff, even if it's like 200-300 people.
100%.
Because I know people like to compare it to the bigger YouTubers. Obviously, they get thousands and a couple 100,000 views, you know. But when you're starting off, like to me, it's the coolest thing when I see like 100 people watch my video, and I was like, oh shit, this is pretty neat.
Yeah.
You know,
you just never know which one's going to stick. I mean, you know, for you guys that don't know, I would say the majority of my content's built around more like aftermarket like modifications for like kind of more like Volkswagen, Audi, some BMW, more like European stuff.
Yeah.
If I go back and look on my channel in the past like 6 years, my #1 most viewed video was a video I did about my wife's G37. I titled it, "Is the G37 still a good car to buy in 2020?"
Oh, wait.
That's my most popular video.
Really?
And I was literally just, you know what? I was bored one day. I was like, you know what? There's a lot of people that have interest in, you know, the classic G cars. So like,
Yeah.
I got one sitting right here. Let's make a video.
might as
And
well
like
do a video.
that was the most popular video.
That is
So-
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So since you mentioned that you like making videos on European cars, what car are you currently driving? Like, what car you own?
Currently drive a 2018 Audi RS3.
How do you like that going from the Q to the RS?
So it's interesting. What probably a lot of people would say, well, what was, you know, Nissan Fini, was it not working for you? Like, was there something that like you feel like was just leaving more to be desired? Like, how did you go from like, you know, the Japanese stuff to the Europeans? For me, what I was looking for is just getting into the better performing like driveline stuff. So it's no secret. Obviously, I love my Nissan Infiniti stuff. Nothing but love and appreciation for the classic, you know, the Z, the G cars, the VQ stuff, VRs, whatever. But one area that's always been their shortcoming is their automatic transmissions.
Right.
It's no secret. Like they've always been kind of behind the curve. And for me, like I like that snappy, that quick responsiveness out of a gearbox. And that was what kind of got me like looking into, you know, the Audis, you know, the A3, the S3, you know, the GTIs, the Golf Rs, stuff like that, because I wanted all-wheel drive and I wanted some type of dual clutch transmission.
A DCT?
DCT, you know, obviously the 8 speeds now have proven to be pretty fantastic. You know, that's used in so many different platforms. But yeah, that was something that I just couldn't get my hands on within the brand of Nissan or Infiniti. So that was what kind of pushed me into the European stuff.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Then from there I had an Audi A3, which was obviously just kind of more the basic, kind of more economical, you know, version within that 3 series of Audis. Had that for a while, did the basic bolt-ons, you know, springs, wheels, did a turbo upgrade on it, just basic stuff. It was a full bolt-on car. Had that for a few years. Then I had an Audi S6, which is a great vehicle. That was a twin turbo V8, had upgraded turbos on that one, exhaust, the whole 9 yards. It was kind of one of those like bigger bodied sedans,
Yeah.
very cruisy, at factory like air suspension. So super comfortable daily, plenty of power. You know, if you need to beat up on the Scat Pack guys, you know, on the highway, definitely.
We always pick on the Scat Pack guys.
Yeah, always beat up on that crowd a little bit, but
They're like, my boat's faster than yours.
yeah. I mean, it was a boat, man, but it was a pretty peppy boat. So definitely love and respect for the big body cars. And for me, like, I just always love just the sound you get out of the 5-cylinder Audis, and there's so few of them. So few of them. Some of you guys may or may not know, for people that may not be so much into the Euro car stuff, but you know, the TTRS and the Audi RS3 were really the only 2 remaining models in production that you could still get a 5-cylinder turbo. The TTRS is now discontinued, so the only model still in existence is the latest version of the RS3. That's the only 5-cylinder left. So after that generation, I mean, who knows if they're going to keep making that? You know, obviously electric vehicles, that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, that was something important to me. I told myself, like, you know, started with the A3, I was like 25, and I just started my YouTube videos. And I told myself by the time I turned 30, I need to be an RS3. So that was something kind of like a commitment to myself, and it was really important that I made that happen. So,
well, I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, hey, me too,
cool,
man. Me too. I try to do what I can. I mean, everybody has their dream car, and you could categorize that like attainable dream car versus like unrealistic dream car.
Right.
And for me, like, I know a lot of people look at it like, you know, it's just an overpriced Volkswagen. Cool, that's fine, but
you love it.
to me, it's a fun daily driver. You know, it's all-wheel drive. I love the sound. I'm not a street racer. I don't have anything to prove. I'm not putting money on the line. And yeah, it's just an all-around. It's just a really fun, compact car that you can kind of just rip around and just have fun with it, man.
Have you taken it to the mountains yet?
I have not. No.
You have not?
I have not.
So once we're done, I'm gonna give you a date that, you know, we set up like a mountain run and stuff. So me and a couple guys,
Oh, yeah?
Mr. Tuesday.
Oh,
Chris?
yeah.
So he set something up, and then I'll give you the information if you want to come.
Okay.
It's in October.
It definitely needs some opportunity to stretch its legs, man.
Yeah.
So
that would definitely be fun.
Okay.
So what was your first modification to either the Audi, or when you first buy a car, what is the first thing that you like to do to it?
Oh man, that's a good one. I mean, I would say when I was younger, this is another one. It's like modifying cars in your 20s versus modifying your 30s, right?
That's a big difference.
When I was younger, it was always like intake exhaust.
Right.
Being a little bit older, having been an advisor, just kind of taking that precautionary route, I would say preventative maintenance before modifications.
Agree.
You know, are your brakes good? Are your tires good, right? Like, what's the condition and health of your fluids, right? Like, when's the last time the spark plugs are changed? Are they gapped correctly, right? And that was always a challenge. Like in the performance industry, it's like you get a guy, he's so excited, he's chomping at the bit to like get a tune. It's like, all right, man, just contain your excitement for a second. Like, let's make sure that we're up to standard, like before we try to make more power with the car.
Yeah, because even, people see my car and everything that's done to it, but I told them, I was like, bro, I touched everything on this car.
Yeah.
On the bottom of the car, all the bushings, when they got, taken to the shop, oil gallery gaskets, everything was done in order for me to enjoy the car and make sure that it lasted as long as it did.
Dude, 100%.
So like a lot of people don't take that into consideration. They're just like, oh, exhaust, let's put a supercharger on it, let's put a turbo on it, and just send it. Next thing you know, their car blow up. Oh, this platform sucks. Like, no, bro, what you did was wrong. That's why your car blew up.
That's it.
Different story.
Yeah, it's just a lot of guys, they want to take the shortcuts, man, and the saying is always true. You got to pay to play.
Yeah, definitely. That is true. Unfortunately,
yes,
it is an expensive hobby. So what are the pros and cons of the car that you own?
The Audi RS3, well, I mean, I think definitely the pros outweigh the cons. I mean, there's some areas where you could say there are some drawbacks. I mean, it doesn't really have like true Audi like multi-link suspension. It's basically like sharing the same suspension architecture from like the other like MQB cars. So like your GLI, your Golfs, your Golf Rs, your Sport Wagons, your All-Tracks, all that kind of stuff. Whereas like a lot of people say, they're not really going to give it like the approval of a true Audi. It doesn't have like your traditional like multi-link Audi suspension. So,
but yeah, I guess that little bit right there gives you like parts are more accessible because you could go to the auto parts store and be like, hey, I need X, Y, and Z, and they'd be like, okay, is this much? And it's in the back.
Yeah, that's also, you could even make a case that is an advantage. You have like cross compatibility, interchangeability between so many other cars. Yeah. The connecting rods are a little bit weak on the RS3s. I mean, not that there's like an abundance of cars that are coming out of the factory that are just like indestructible connecting rods. I mean, that's usually the weakness on most stock motors. Yeah. Connecting rods, but yeah, once you're around 500, 550 foot-pounds or so, that's about as much as they're going to take. So once you're about stage 1, stage 2, I mean, you're approaching kind of that upper end of that safe threshold. Now, of course, there's always going to be your guys that are going to send it. Maybe they got a little bit less concern about catastrophe, but
or a little deeper pockets that they could just spend the extra money on the motor.
That's right. That's right. I mean, if you've got the right budget, the right resources, anything is possible.
I always say just as fast as deep as your pockets.
That's exactly it, man. Yeah. So yeah.
You got the money to spend, go for it.
Yeah. There's always things we wish were a little better, but I can live with it. Yeah. For my purpose of it, I don't need any more power, man. I'm not that cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. What keep you inspired in the car community, being with everything going on, a lot of car meets being shut down, the car scene is definitely not the same that it was like a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think things absolutely slowed down during the pandemic. I think that definitely kind of brought things to a screeching halt. And then, of course, like we've seen stuff with these like ridiculous takeovers. I mean, the whole street racing scene. I mean, there are some concerns. I do think that a lot of times car enthusiasts, they even if you're not partaking in those activities, just they see a guy with a slight lower car and he's got his Instagram on there, you could potentially get sort of lumped in with maybe some of the riffraff crowd that is sort of causing some issues and negative stereotypes to continue. So yeah, there's a lot of that, but I mean, for me, like, there's always that overarching theme of life's too short to drive a boring car, as they say.
True.
So for me, it's just, even you're just driving back and forth to work or just doing something on the weekend, it's just every minute of that drive is enjoyable, right?
That's what I say.
It's just like some people go out and they spend tens of thousands of dollars into doing something like, maybe their thing is playing golf, or some people collect watches, right? So everybody has a thing.
Yeah.
Everybody has their interest, their niche, and it just comes down to like how you decide you want to go about supporting it responsibly.
Right. Because even if, you know, obviously ours is cars, as long as you're doing it safely, and you're not putting somebody else in danger, by all means, have your fun.
Have your fun, man. Have your
There's
fun.
a time and a place for everything. So just enjoy it like accordingly, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I can't say that I didn't, you know, speed somewhere where I wasn't supposed to, but just be mindful of other people, you know, don't put other people in danger.
Do a little pull in Mexico from time to time, never hurt.
Yeah. You know, take it over the border.
That's it, man.
So is this your forever car, or you think if somebody came up and be like, hey, I give you this much, you'll sell it?
I mean, anything's for sale at the right price, right? I mean, for me, like, I'm just so satisfied, like, with what it has to offer. Like, I don't find myself like constantly looking at other cars. Like, maybe I should have had this, maybe I should have had that. You know, I know a lot of people compare the RodZ platform to like the B58s. I've owned both, and yeah, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. But
not to cut you off, but you own three cars that are always talked about. The VR30.
Well, I had a VQ.
You had
mine
the
was a
VQ.
VQ.
It was a VQ.
I had the original Q50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say, you had the VR30, B58, and now the RodZ. Like, similar, like...
That's a good trio.
Yeah.
The S6 with the 4-liter. So I've seen a decent bit of diversity amongst popular platforms. So, but I've seen plenty of modified VR30s to kind of have a fair understanding of what all is entailed with that.
Yeah.
So
what do you think is the difference between the power delivery, since you said you had the B58 compared to your RS3?
So I would say the B58, I mean, there's so many great things to say about it. One of the biggest things that I would say could tip the scale for some people with the RodZ is it has more of an exotic flavor with the 5-cylinder. You know what I mean? The B58 is an engine that's found in so many different cars, right? It could be in an X3, you know, M40i. It could be in a 240 or 340. You got a bigger 540, right? Like it's in so many cars, which obviously, again, I can give credit to interchangeability is nice. But if you just want something that kind of puts you in more of a, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a different area within the world of cars, where you just kind of have that unique, that exotic flavor, you know, with what you get out of the 5-cylinder. I do think that's nice. I mean, I would say stock motor to stock motor, I would probably give it to the B58. I think they've proven to be able to hold a bit more.
Really?
That factory bottom end. I mean, even some of the earlier Gen 1s, I mean, we really see these guys like push them to the absolute limit, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously with aftermarket modifications, bolt-ons, no matter what type of car, man, I always say, like, there's no promise or guarantee of anything.
Yeah, it's always a gamble.
It's always a gamble.
That's why race
right?
shops and race teams have multiple motors, because it's still something being built by another human being that has problems just like you. So it could go bad.
I would tip the scale in favor as far as like for what the stock motors can handle. I would say the B58 does have the edge over the 5-cylinder. I would say that 5-cylinder perhaps just a little more fragile. The other thing, I actually did a video on this on my channel. We could always plug that in if you wanted to, but the cost, if you were to like say go find a used B58, obviously because there's so many cars that have that engine, it's going to be a lot easier to find a used B58 than a used RodZ, because there's just so few of them produced in comparison to B58. So if you're going to try to find a used motor, I mean, it's not going to be easy, and you're going to spend probably at least 2 to 3 times more
for the RodZ than you are for the B58.
I mean, you can look up pricing for used RodZ, dude. They could be 10, 15 grand
for a used one.
For a used one,
no way.
Yeah, they're very expensive.
I'm sure the B58 is probably like anywhere from 3 grand to 6, maybe.
Yeah. Depending on what condition, mileage. You know, it's Gen 1 or Gen 2. But yeah, that I would say that's another advantage where the B58 stands tall. Now, driveline, I would say the RS3 for sure has the better gearbox.
Yeah.
By far. It's a much stronger transmission. I mean, the stock HP50, like those 8 speeds that you're going to find in a 340, great transmission, there's nothing wrong with them, but from what I've seen, for the guys that have kind of pushed the platform, typically the DQ500's a little bit more stout, before you start to get into like tearing down, clutch basket and stuff like that. So
that's pretty cool though. That's good that you have all the knowledge on both platforms and able to make like such a great comparison. For
sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy that's going to go out and try to push something to the absolute like limit, but I'm always trying to find a happy medium and compare and contrast. I mean, I've always had friends in my circle, people that have taken that platform a little bit further.
Right.
So I always have kind of a reference point. So
that's always good too.
Yep. Now, one other thing, I'll let you move on to the next topic, but if you look at stock turbo against stock turbo, pretty much every case that I've seen, it always looks like the RS3 is always faster in the quarter mile than the B58s. When you're looking at stock turbo to stock turbo, yeah.
You think it's their transmission? Because there's a couple guys that I know that have a RS3. Mm-hmm. One of them is like really built, the other one's like mild.
A little more mild.
That one that's mild is a freaking bullet off the line. They're like beating like Teslas, like Plaids and stuff off the line. Like that car is extremely quick off the line.
They launch so hard.
Yeah,
I think that's one area where you're going to have an advantage, and then of course you're going to have your all-wheel drive system, your Quattro. Although a lot of people do knock the all-wheel drive system on the RS3s because they're going to say it's not a true Torsen like Audi Quattro system. It's obviously more biased towards the front, but hey, I can live with that. If I get better fuel economy, you're still getting a really effective delivery of power, when using launch control, that's fine. But
as long as it works, it works.
It works, you know what I mean? So yeah, looking at stock turbo to stock turbo, I think that's where it has the edge, and obviously the transmission does have the edge as well.
That's pretty cool though. I didn't know that. So what has been your favorite memory of owning this vehicle that you have now?
Favorite memory of having it? I would say probably the first time I used launch control, I had a friend of mine with me. We went in a remote rural area, just in the middle of nowhere, and a friend of mine's not a car guy.
Oh.
Not a car guy. So
I'm sure it was a great reaction.
Seeing his reaction to it, my own reaction to it, it was hilarious. He he'd really never been in I'm saying that I don't like to use the word fast because fast is such a
let's say
relevant,
quick.
Yeah, a relevant term, but to him that was one of the fastest cars he had been in. It's just what is this launch control? For people that's kind of a new thing, seeing that authentic reaction for the first time, it's fun, man.
It's always fun. Priceless.
Because I think a lot of people, they're expecting when you're sitting there holding the brake and the gas, you're sitting at 4,000 RPM, they're like,
what's going to happen?
Is that safe? You're going to break something, or are you just going to spin tires? And with those cars, and again, depending on your power level, but you don't really spin.
Really?
So you really don't. You just hook and go.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Again, that's going to be heavily dependent on your setup. A guy who's making 500 horsepower versus 800 horsepower, it's going to be a different ball game. But
right.
For those cars like stage 1, stage 2, you're on a dry road. I mean, you really don't spin. Really don't.
That's pretty cool. Considering that I come from a rear-wheel drive car, to hear that your car just
exactly
goes, that's pretty neat.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's one thing that I feel like once you get used to that point and shoot with all-wheel drive, it would be hard to get back into a rear-wheel drive car.
You think so?
Honest. Yeah, because you just I guess you could maybe make a case that all-wheel drives for maybe lazy people or less experienced drivers. Hey, that's fine, man.
Well, is your car automatic? Oh, you say you have the DCT, right?
Yeah, Audi's DSG. So yeah,
okay.
Because
I was gonna say
with an actual clutch and you're banging through gears now.
Right. So I was gonna say maybe do they even make a manual?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, I was about to say maybe if there was a manual one, you could see the difference of how it feels like.
Yeah. No.
You don't think it'll make it a little more fun to banging gears?
The old the Mark II TTRS, that would have been the last generation of the 5-cylinder turbo Audis you could have gotten with a manual.
No kidding.
Those are usually worth a pretty penny if you can find one in good shape. It's not clapped out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you were to recommend a first car to somebody that's just getting into cars and they don't know anything about cars, they want to get their feet wet, what would you recommend? Since you have so many like different platforms and motors and a good amount of experience.
It's a good question. Well, I mean, for the money, I love an F30. If you can find like a Gen 1 B58 like I've had, I mean, it's a lot of car for the money. A lot of car for the money. If you can find one that's in decent shape, I mean, again, you are still getting a B58. You can do rear wheel drive, you can do X-Drive. I mean, the sky is really the limit when it comes to aftermarket stuff. So the prices have come down quite a bit. Maybe find one that's fairly well looked after. I mean, hey, I still love a Gen 1 B58. You know, I used to have an Audi A3. That was another car. I felt like it's for the guy that maybe you're interested in like the performance you're getting from like the GTI crowd, but you do want all-wheel drive. That was kind of what led me to that decision. Because obviously, you know, the GTIs are just front-wheel drive. If you go to the Golf R, obviously you pay a massive, massive penny to get an all-wheel drive.
So sorry, not to cut you off, but like, is the Golf R like the Nismo for Nissan? I guess like the equivalent. If you
could kind of look at it that way in a sense.
Because I always wonder, like, you know, I know they have different trends, but like, is it just like the Nissan, the Nismo for Nissan in that sense of the?
It is going to be that premium performance model. Now, one thing that I would say separates the difference between the GTI and the R versus say like a trim level in like a Z is there's actually significant mechanical differences, right? Like you're getting a different motor, you're getting a different turbo, it's going to have bigger brakes. The transmission's different, the gear ratios are different. There's a lot of things.
It's a completely different car.
It's the same but different, right? Like you could say, yeah, both are hatchback, you know, cars, but yeah, you're paying that premium, you're getting the better motor, you're getting the all-wheel drive, this, that, and the other.
Okay,
right? But,
well, I mean that's good to know because I never knew the difference. So
yeah. So pretty straightforward, and for me, like
for more inspiring content, follow What's Your Drive on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Be sure to give us a like, comment, or share. And now back to the video.
All-wheel drive. So that was what led me to get the Audi A3, which is essentially the same thing as the GTI, but it does have the same all-wheel drive system as the Golf R.
Interesting.
Yeah, which again, the RS3 has the same all-wheel drive system as all of those cars.
Okay.
You're just getting the better engine.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming then like it should launch equally as hard as a RS.
So depends on the model. So the RS cars, they launch way harder from factory. So like you have your A series Audis, you have your S series Audis, and you have your RS Audis. The RS cars, they launch by far the hardest. Depending on the model, like for example, like my S6, the S6, which that generation used the 4-liter twin turbo, compared to say like the RS7, the S model, yeah, it has launch control, but it doesn't build boost during launch control, whereas an RS7 would.
Oh, snap.
Right?
Okay.
Whereas like say the Audi A3 versus say the Audi S3 or the Golf R, they both have factory launch control, but those basic A series Audis, they don't build the boost. So the S series as well as the Golf R, you know, for that like MQB like transverse mount platform, yeah, the S and the R, yeah, they still build boost, but it's not always going to apply to all models across the whole brand lineup. Like I said, the S6, even though it has the same 4-liter twin turbo, it doesn't build boost and launch, whereas the RS did. So it's confusing, man. It's confusing because I can't.
It's a lot of like little nitty gritty details when it comes to like the platform.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you've got a BMW, then you've got, you know, your M40i models, then you've got an M car, right? So Audis, you know, you've got an A series, you've got an S series, and you've got an RS series. So it's like you wouldn't be able to say, oh well, yeah, it's an S model, it does build boost. That's not the case for all of them. So yeah, you just kind of have to know, man. Like there's a lot of things to research, and you know, and that's one thing I will give credit to Audi is that I like that you at least do get some of those features. Now they might be a bit more dialed back, right? Like, yeah, you still get launch control. It's nice to have, but obviously it's not going to be as aggressive as like an RS car. So yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's
cool,
a lot of knowledge. I'm learning a lot over here.
Yeah. Just, you know, try to do what I can.
Thanks.
Absorb some knowledge.
Yeah. So to switch it up a little bit, let's say we go to a car meet with you know, you bring in a friend. What's your car meet 101 etiquette for when you go to a car meet?
just be polite. Just say hi to people, smile, wave. You know, don't act like you're too good to park next to this guy or that guy. I mean, I'm always a firm believer in all aspects of life, man. Like, you know, rising tides raise all ships, you know, so whether you're a JDM guy or a Euro guy or a like Murica guy, like just everybody just treat everybody with respect, you know. I'm not necessarily going to say respect all builds, because there are some builds out there just pretty bad, but
it was pretty funny because that's one of my questions.
That's your questions.
What's your opinion on the
like,
respect all builds?
And even if like you don't respect somebody's build because he has some like dysfunctionally low car that can't even go down the road, right? Like, it doesn't mean you have to like say a negative comment, you know, just like, hey, what's up, dude? Like, you don't have to like act like you're on a pedestal of like superiority because of, you know, this, that, and the other. Like, you know, it's just no gatekeeping, man. No gatekeeping. Everybody just, you know, treat each other well.
Just enjoy your car for you. Do you believe that the car community is very judgmental?
I think the car community is extremely judgmental. I think a lot of people are very quick to just jump all over like different conversations, whether it be in like, you know, YouTube comments or Instagram or Facebook groups, and it's just like making comments without having full understanding, without having full context to maybe the person's asking a question, maybe it's just a general like opinion question, right? Like it's, yeah, like it just have it. It's okay to have an opinion, but just have an informed opinion. I think that's the way to look at it.
Maybe if you have an opinion and you could help somebody make something better without putting them down, I think will be a better way of going about it versus like, your car sucks. This thing looks like shit, you know? And that's pretty much what happens on the internet. Yeah. Unfortunately.
I always think of, you know, there's always going to be there's always going to be broke boy negativity, man. Yeah. And as like I've said before, man, sometimes it's people who leave negative comments drive slow cars.
You read my mind.
That's just a lot of times what it boils down to, man.
Oh, they don't even have a car.
Maybe not.
There's been people that commented on my car that you go click on their page and you're like, bro, you walking on Jordans, bro. Like, I spend on gas more than what your Jordans cost a week. Like, shut up, please. Be quiet.
I saw that one video you posted where it was like you had that GoPro recording and the guy was like talking junk on like your drag radials.
Oh my god,
that was hilarious, dude.
And so
that was so funny.
We were doing pools right in Mexico. I forgot to turn it off, and it was you know how like you set it to like quick start.
Yeah,
I hit it to quick start. I forgot that the crap was recording. And then when we were leaving, you know, somebody wanted to go to Mexico again, and then I go click on the camera and said, "Memory full," and I was like, "How is it full?" I was like, "Bro, I just put a brand new." Like memory card in there, like 128 gig one. I'm like, how the hell did it get filled up? Well, I was at the carbon for like 3 hours. It was recording the whole time. Yeah. So it filled up the memory. Then when I got home, I started going through the footage and man, I started dying laughing. I was like, oh my God, people really talk a lot of junk.
Yeah, they probably have no like comprehension of how violent your car is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people still ask me if the Mickey Thompsons are for show. I'm like, sure, yeah. I mean, I guess sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people too, like they don't understand how violent just like properly built like boosted VQs are. And and again, there's going to be some people like, oh, this guy drives an Audi, like he must think that this sucks. Like, no, dude, like I've been in some like violent VQs, man. Like it's, you know, 700 horsepower in a Z, dude. That's a handful, man. Yeah. Like it's not. I mean, dude, you drive this thing every day, bro. You know, like you're not just going to be like, you know. Again, as I compare like my car, I could sit there with like a cup of coffee and just kind of point and shoot. Like you got to be like focused, man. You got to be locked in.
Especially straight drive.
You know what I mean? Like you know, if it's just a little bit wet outside, right? If you're coming out of a, you know, you're in a turn or something. Like you
even if the car, like people don't take into consideration if there's a lot of dust or I just drove by something that's gravel and my tires, I haven't either like spun them a little bit to get all that crap off the surface of the tire. It still feels like I'm riding on ice. So a lot of people don't understand none of that. Yeah, so it's hard to explain unless you get in the car and I give you a ride.
Dude, yeah. You know, the old saying, man, Uncle Ben, Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. So same with your cars too, right?
I got this question for you. Since we talked about, people that don't have kind of broke to build cars. It's not that bad. It's just, you know, it's always talked about in the community. Like, what do you feel about people that talk junk about, let's say, a kid that his family's well off and they got like money to build a car from their parents instead of, you know, working their ass off to build a car?
Well, there's an old saying, we've heard it a million times, there's built not bought.
Right.
Right. And I'm not one to discredit the success, you know, that a person or family may have that has allowed them to be able to acquire, right, like a higher caliber of car. I mean, I'm not one to take that credit away from anybody, but there's always going to be resentment. I mean, from a lot of people that, you know, maybe they're not where they want to be in life, and sometimes like that can be a place where those negative comments come from. There's some resentment. They're, you know, throwing salt on the guy who's ahead of that person on their pathway. So, yeah, I mean, if we could just be patient, be understanding. I mean, if somebody's kind of just getting started, I mean, be encouraging, be willing to help them out. I mean, there's definitely a lot of cases where people just ask beginner questions, they get their head bitten off a lot of times.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not, yeah, dude, if there's a time and place, like use the search button, right? Use the search button. It's there for a reason. But like,
we got that answer a couple times. Be like, man, how do I do this? Use the search button.
Use the search button, right? And it's like, I'm not the kind of person that would post that. You know what I mean? I'd be like, hey man, like maybe you found conflicting information, so therefore you still have a question, right? Like I can't do all the thinking for somebody, but I can help, like at least point them in the right direction. Like I don't have the answer to everything. Like,
right. Like there's gonna be a point where you're gonna need help on something that you're not gonna know the answer to, and somebody might be able to help you.
Yeah.
I always say knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
So I've had a lot of people on social media ask me like, hey, how do you do this on your car? Since I've seen you swap the motor, you did this, that, and the third, and I'm like, this is how you do it, you know. Or I was like, look, I made a video. I reference them to my video. Be like, look, I have a video up. You could watch it, and then if you have any other questions, just hit me up, and I'll try to help you the best way I can.
Right.
So I always try to be supportive because you just never know in the car community. You could get stranded out there. Somebody might drive by and be like, oh, snap. Oh, that's J-Rod. Yo, you all right? You need help?
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, shit. What's up, dude? Here, like, bro, I watch your videos and whatever. You know, like, be nice. Be nice to people. Then you could get that right back.
Doesn't cost anything to be a decent person, man. That's one thing I don't know if someone else has said this before, but at least to my knowledge, this has been something I've kind of come up with in the verbiage of what I call a common standard of decency, man. You know, just be polite. Just, you know, always just kind of have a, you know, a welcoming, you know, disposition, and always be wanting to uplift others, man. We don't have to push other people down. Just like, hey, man, you like cars, I like cars, cool. Let's just like be homies, man. Like, it's we don't need to. We need more unity in the car community. We don't need this division. Like,
it's already so much trying to divide and stop people from being like car enthusiasts, you know, when it comes to like the EPA, and then also like each other, like, you know, like people don't think like you could have a different group of friends that drive different cars or do different things with, and it's like, bro, relax. I love cars and I like driving. That's it.
Yeah.
All that drama, just keep it over there, please.
And the other thing is too is like, okay, so like, you know, I've obviously had quite a bit of very different cars, right? Like, hey, if somebody asked me like, you know, a VQ question or something like that, like, yeah, I haven't had a Q50 in a very long time, but it's like, bro, we're still cool. Like, don't think just because I, you know, moved on to a different brand, that doesn't mean I dislike the other brand. Like, I'm like, the door's always open. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't like to think of like this way. I like to think of it as more like everybody kind of more on the same playing field. Whether you're at, you know, you're a domestic guy, you know, a JDM guy, European guy, like just changing cars. It does not mean that I'm like turning my back on a community.
It's like,
you know,
clothing, for example. You could wear Nike one day.
Yeah.
Go wear Reebok the other day, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Or like with food. One day you want some pizza, the next day you want to go eat some sushi.
That's it,
to
man.
give you a better example. And then like doesn't mean you don't like pizza just because you had sushi the next day.
That's it.
Same thing with cars, but people can't seem to put that together nowadays.
Yeah. A lot of inaccurate assumptions in the car community.
Yeah. Yep. So what car would you recommend somebody not to get? Knowing everything you know. Because I know this.
Cars not to get. I mean, okay, I got a couple.
All right, hit me with them.
DEs.
DE?
DEs.
Oh, he just broke my heart.
DEs. I mean, dude, every DE at this point, man, like, you know that thing is going to be drinking tons of oil. I mean, it's going to have like 7, 8 more previous owners. Probably going to have some accident reports in there. I mean, it's probably going to have leaking sunroof. It's going to need a new, you know, probably need some electrical diag. I mean, just, yeah. That would be a tough, I mean, as much as like I would love to say, oh, you know, 10 years ago, I feel like that was a good car to buy. But
Were you talking about DE like a G35 or DE 350Z?
it just any like VQ DE.
Okay,
Yeah.
just in general.
Just, I mean, just the oil consumption, man. The oil consumption. I mean, and like, can those be great cars? Absolutely. I mean, are they enjoyable cars? Yes. Do they have kind of a nostalgic charm to them? Absolutely. But it's like, I think these younger guys, they're excited about that and they see the potential, but it's just like, dude, you're down to your last 10 grand, you're a young guy starting out, you got that car. It's like, dude, you're not going to have, I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't, who am I to judge? But it's like, if you don't have capital to support like rebuilding a motor, right? Like addressing mistakes from previous owners. I mean, for me, I can't recommend anybody to get a car that has like notorious oil consumption problems.
That's smart.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
DEs, dude, like those things just
They
burn
love
oil,
to drink
man.
oil, especially like 2005, 2006.
Yeah, the DE, like the rev ups.
The rev up?
Yeah. I mean,
No,
I would see DEs all the time. I mean, they just carry oil in the car.
I was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you have one, right?
I had a
Like,
supercharged 2004.
and it burned a lot of oil.
A quart of oil every like 1,500 miles. So
Yeah.
about, well, half a quart I think it was that I
Yeah.
used to put in, half a quart.
Yeah.
But the cool thing was it didn't change once I supercharged it.
Yeah.
So it was just the same amount of oil. I got lucky with mine.
Yeah.
Mine was like what they call like a Tuesday, Wednesday car. Versus, you know, like Monday you're like, oh crap, and then, you know, Thursday you're like, and then fuck off Friday. You know, like people stop caring
Yeah.
about it. So I think mine was a Tuesday, Wednesday motor. So
Yeah.
it did me pretty good.
Yeah.
And what other car were you
Other
using?
cars, I mean, the Volkswagen world, like some of the older GTIs. I mean, like those like older TSI engines. I mean, like just timing chain problems, like tensioners. I mean, all the time and labor that would go into fixing that. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily worth it for a lot of people. I mean, again, you know, it's always relevant, right? Like I answered a question somebody had posted about like the Audi, like the 4-liter stuff. It's like, dude, maybe you're a tech. Maybe you have a shop. Maybe you got 60 grand in tools. You've got lifts. You have the scan tools. You have the understanding of the mechanical, the electrical side of it. Like, dude, maybe that's a great car for you. But like for the average guy getting started, probably not going to have the resources
Or
to
the knowledge.
facilitate the best like ownership and like production of like getting a car like that going. You know what I mean? Like it's just, most people don't have those kind of resources. So that's why I say like I'm giving examples of like what not to buy. It's like, dude, you're down to your last 10 grand, you're getting a car. Dude, you know how much it costs to build a motor for a car? Like it's a
It is
lot.
pricey, yeah.
It's a lot. And like, you know, look at the price of everything the past few years. Prices have gone up.
A lot.
Parts have gone up. Like labor has gone up.
Yeah, that's a big
Said at
one.
the same time, you know? So it's like, I would try to recommend someone to get into a car that is going to have, you know, good vitals, right? Like,
Or like
you've
it had
got
an easier
good
life
terms.
at least, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know, you buy that guy's, you know, a 7 previous owner, 350Z, it's just been beaten to death. I mean, it's, you know.
That's a hard buy right there.
Yeah.
Now when I look at cars and stuff, I'm like, if it's not completely stock owned by a grandma, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a project car
Yeah.
or anything. I just don't want to deal with it, you know, because
Yeah.
some of these people just do crappy stuff, buy shitty parts, and then you have to go ahead and replace everything regardless. So I'd rather
Yeah.
start like fresh if
I
I'm
agree.
doing something like that.
Get as close to a blank canvas as possible, right? Like if you
Yeah.
can get some knowledge about previous service history, right? Like look at Carfax. If it's from a private party, like talk to this guy. Like, does he seem like he's responsible, right? Or does he seem mad shady? Like,
Yeah,
there's some concerns.
definitely. So now we're gonna go into like what I like to call a little game round. I just
Okay.
want to ask you give you two options, and then you have 3 seconds to pick one, and then I started doing where you could, give like your input on what I ask and why you
Yeah.
chose your answer.
Okay, let's do it.
So to start off, the first one is gonna be GT3 RS or NSX.
The GT RS.
How come?
I mean, just because GT3 RS. I mean, it's just,
There's like what
mean,
more to explain.
dude. I mean, just the engineering that goes into that level of car. I mean, I did a video for a guy earlier this year with a lizard green GT3 RS, and I was getting some like exhaust clips, and we were just behind that thing, dude. I mean, just the raw aggression. I mean, it's like you're just getting something that is like refined for the sole purpose of just like ripping around a track. I mean, everything from just the the aerodynamics. I mean, the braking, center locks. I mean, crazy high revving. Flat six. I mean, yeah,
They do sound extremely amazing.
bro. Those things, just the way they rev is just so high. I mean, it is a unique experience for sure. Yeah, I would say for sure.
GT3. So the next one is automatic transmission or manual.
I'm gonna have to say automatic. Fight me. Come fight me, bro. Like, it's just and then it's like I have love and respect for like that traditional guy that wants to like bang through gears. Like, that's awesome, but like there's a reason why we have phones and we don't send smoke signals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you want like 5G, or do you want like dial-up internet? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
That's a
just
good way
certain
to put
things that we have to like let's just calm down and like stop fighting each other, and like just like recognize that there are technological advancements that makes our lives better, And like, it comes down to sales too, man. Like, look, if like we look at like a particular brand of car, like how many manuals they sold over the last X amount of years, it's like, dude, like the consumer decides, right? Like, if you guys didn't buy manuals, don't be mad that they stopped making manuals.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's just like automobile manufacturers are in the business of scaling volume and profit, selling more cars. And if like people are not buying manual cars, like they just have to cut it off.
I was honestly very surprised that they made one, the new Supra, in manual, and two, the new Nissan Z came in manual too. I was like,
I'm very surprised.
I was very surprised.
Very surprised to see that. But yeah, I mean, if you're a traditional guy, man, you like three pedals, dude, love and respect. We can still be friends. It's cool. Yeah.
This is a funny story. I don't think I ever told anybody. I bought a Z instead of a GTR because I wanted a manual transmission.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were looking at a GTR.
Yeah. Because remember when I did my turbo kit, like all that money that I put into the turbo kit and building the car.
Oh yeah.
It's GTR money.
That is, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like, I looked at a GTR and then I was like, I just love the Zs. I mean, eventually I'll probably get to it again, get that option again to try to get one, but that really is why I bought this. And because I was like, full bolt-on E85, the Z is faster than the GTR all day long.
Yeah.
Unless you get upgraded turbos, but then you get a chance of blowing the transmission on the GTR. So,
and just, I mean, a lot of people a lot of times I think people have the incorrect assumptions because they're buying a more expensive car that like every part of it is stronger, right? Like we've all talked about it. Like, there are specifics within each platform. There's going to be, everybody's got their Achilles heel in that sense. And like, if you like this is what I invite people a lot of times to do is like, you need to research your upgrade pathway before you get into a platform, right? Like, dude, you know how expensive a built transmission is for a GTR?
30 grand.
Bro, like that's a big deal. Like,
that was another thing, so I did my research when it came to that too. And then I was like, okay, I could get it, right?
Yeah.
But then if something goes wrong, am I gonna have the money to upkeep it or like replace the transmission or X, Y, and Z that will go bad with it? Was us to this, like, I swapped the motor myself,
Yeah.
Freaking turboed it. Now I'm just as fast, if not faster than the GTR.
Yeah. And again, how many used VQs are there for sale to buy? You can go hit up LKQ or whatever, or you could buy one for a few grand, and you got a fairly healthy motor. Like, it's like I was saying about the 5-cylinder thing. It's like, dude, how much is like a GTR motor going to be used? Dude, the guy's going to want an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah.
There's not one sitting on every street corner. So
that is definitely true.
Yeah.
So that's really like, and also the manual thing is why I got this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
It's a beast, dude. That thing's nasty.
I love this car.
Yeah, I mean, people out here, I don't think a lot of people understand, like I said, how rowdy a properly built boosted VQ is. I mean, these cars, they sound so good.
Yeah.
I mean, just that, you know, that whole experience. I mean,
it's just so raw. It's just nothing like driving a boosted VQ, in my opinion. The raw feeling of it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now, the next one is going to be function or form?
Function.
Function?
Function. All day.
You don't like your slam stance car?
I'm way too old for that. I'm way too old for that. Yeah, no. I can't be not trying to be dirt nasty low, man. Not trying to be a low boy.
Sometimes I want to go back to the low boy style, but I'm like, I just
probably see any fender gap. I don't see any gap in there.
She squats pretty good, so I'm trying to keep it aesthetically pleasing as possible.
Yeah.
So roll racing or track? Track, what I mean when I say track, like circuit.
Like road course.
Yeah,
stuff.
road course. That was the word I was looking for.
Oh man, yeah. I guess road course.
Road course.
Road course. Yeah.
Have you done any road course like any point?
No, I haven't. I've just never been in a situation where I've wanted, I guess, just jeopardize the
car itself.
The car itself. I mean, it would be if I had like an unlimited budget. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, without having multiple vehicles, like track support and stuff like that, I personally wouldn't want to risk it. I mean, I've been to events before. I've seen company cars go off track.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
Shit up.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen guys spin out, and it's just like, obviously, track insurance. That's a whole other thing too. So.
I just learned about that because my friend Brian, he goes to the track a lot, and he told me about track insurance. I didn't even know that you could get track insurance, like to run your car out there. I thought it was just like if you mess up, you're like that's it, you're on your own.
Yeah, well, not to mention the damage to your car, damage to other people, damage to the track. I mean,
I always wonder, like, if you went off the track, like, will you have to pay for like whatever you kind of like screwed up?
I mean, somebody's got to pay for it, right? I mean, if you cause damage, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some consequences to that. So, but yeah, I guess for me, it's not so much like, because I'm not one to put myself in like high, like risk situations, but I guess I would say probably I would fit in probably a little bit better with more the refinement of like the road course crowd than like the street race, roll race crowd.
I don't blame you,
Yeah.
Everybody got their own cup of tea.
Everybody's got their own flavor. You know?
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and I'm gonna link all your social media on the description below.
Yeah, appreciate you guys checking out the video. Make sure to subscribe to my man Jay. Jay, thank you so much for having me here today, man. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you everybody for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the video and enjoying getting to know Evan and his story. So check him out on social media, please, and share the video with your friends and family. Until the next one.